Hi, everyone. My name is Vince Gelman. Thank you for joining me today. I'd like to offer you a perspective on why so many people are struggling to see the obvious lies and the obvious truths, the obvious dark truths and the obvious dark lies. And I bring this content to you because there is a growing frustration amongst the awakening ones. There's a frustration that, if it could speak, would be, why the hell are so many people so completely oblivious to what's happening? So let me answer it by starting with this. To survive as children, we had to become a lie. It was safer for us to be a lie than it was for us to be the truth of who we are. And what if, by becoming a lie and by turning our back on the truth of who we are, so to speak, we then became much more inured to the lies of the world? So what's an example? What's an example of this? An example is that so many people had to become a pleaser. So many people let's look at a few examples. So many people had to become the responsible one at age 5, at age 6. They had to become an accommodator. They had to become a rock, like the rock, the go-to person. They had to become like a director. Like they had to be in charge, right? They had to become caretakers. They had to grow up quickly. We had to grow up quickly. It was hard to stay connected to our innocence, our pure innocence, the purity of our childlike spirit, because we had to become a certain someone to cope and survive. We had to sacrifice our authenticity for attachment, for connection, for whatever semblance of love, safety, approval we could get. And I want to remind you all that for little ones, attachment, secure attachment, or whatever semblance of a secure we that they can get is necessary for their survival, not authenticity. We can give up authenticity and survive, but we need that relationship. We need our parents. We need as much safety, love, and approval and nourishment as we can get. And we instinctively know this as little ones. And so on some level of consciousness, usually unconscious, we give up the truth of who we are to become who we need to be. But who we need to be is not who we are. And so we adapt into a lie. We adapt into a little adult. We adapt into a little responsible one at age 5 because of the emotional abuse, because of the physical abuse, because of the neglect, because of the various forms of adversity. We become who we are not. This is not black and white, though, everyone. It's not that we completely become a lie. We completely forego the truth of who we are. That's not true. We didn't become automatons. We didn't become robots void of any sort of capacity to make free choices. We didn't completely disconnect from our free will. We still had instinct. We still had heart. We still had a higher self. We still have our guides working with us, our spirit guides, our spirit family friends up in the heavenly realms. But we did need to take on some form of lie. We had to become a lie. And so we lost ourselves in that lie. And in losing ourselves to the lie, we lost ourselves to a world built on lies. And we gave ourselves over to those lies. And we believed those lies. We believed lies and liars, not seeing the game. One of the reasons why children make this survival adaptation is because they need to blame themselves. They need to hold themselves responsible for what is happening at home, for the adversity at home. They can't blame the parents. Children need to hold their parents in the light of infallibility. So I'm the one who's at fault as a 4-year-old. I'm the one who's wrong. I'm the one who's bad. It's my fault. How common is that belief amongst adults? It's my fault. I am bad. I am wrong. I'm the one to blame for what mommy and daddy are doing to me. I take it on so that I protect the image I hold of them. Because by protecting that image, it secures the attachment. So this is another way we take on a lie. We take on the lie that I am bad, I am wrong. I'm the one who's at fault. So that further cements the lie. And that further strengthens this adaptation, this survival identity, that I now have to become a certain someone. I have to be the someone mommy and daddy want me to be, or whoever my primary attachment figure wants me to be. I need to be who they need me to be. And the other thing that happens is that parents, in different ways, they parent in such a way that they project onto their children, and they mold children, not necessarily consciously, but they mold children to be in their own image. I'm going to parent in such a way that I make my child become good and obedient, because that is the survival adaptation I had to take on as a child, and that I still identify with. It's the adaptation I had to take on as a child 50, 60 years ago. Or if it's a parent with a young child, it might be 40 years ago or 35 years ago, but the parent took on that adaptation. They became a good, obedient person, adult, child, then adult. And then what happens? They mold their children to become a good, obedient person. The child senses that, realizes that if they're going to cope and survive and get the attachment they want, they're going to become good and obedient. Mommy will like me better. Daddy will like me better. I become who I need to be to make sure that they like me. I need to be liked. I need to be loved. So I become the lie. I become good and obedient, but I forgo wildness. I forgo spontaneity. I dance around my instincts, or tiptoe around my instincts. I tiptoe around how powerful and bright my fire is. I dim my light because that threatens mommy and daddy. My fire threatens them. My light threatens them. It's too much. I'm too big. I'm too bright. I'm too wild. I'm too strong. I'm too bubbly. I'm too dreamy. Don't be too dreamy. Be realistic, 5-year-old. Be pragmatic, 4-year-old. Be a lie unto yourself and unto your family and unto the world. Then go to school and go into a classroom that has a 30-to-1 ratio of students to teacher and get standardized. Get molded. Now you're further conditioned to fit in. You're further conditioned to give up the truth of who you are and to give your power away to outside authority. You're further conditioned to have what's called an external locus of control versus an internal locus of control. Now I'm going to define myself by the world, by the teacher, by mom, dad, the preacher, politicians. This is a government school. The government is now molding me. I'm becoming a cog in the machine. I'm becoming a cog in the matrix machine. I'm becoming part of the hive mind, the matrix mind tricks. There's a little bit of wordplay for you. Matrix mind tricks. So we become a lie. Not 100%. We still have instincts. We still have a heart. We still have the truth in our heart. That's where truth is, in our heart. But what happens is that as we lose ourselves to the lie, and as we disconnect from the truth of who we are, and as it becomes so that we must, let me say it this way. When it is safer to be a lie and it's a threat to be the truth, then what happens? Our survival depends on being the lie and giving our power away to external authority. Our survival as children depended on ignoring the truth of who we are, becoming a lie, and giving our power away to others who were also conditioned, lost to the lie. So now we come to 2020. Really, this is the way it's been for a long time, but we come to 2020. We come to 4 years ago. And we have a populace of people who are inured to the lie within, inured to the lie outside, and continue this survival adaptation of giving power away to others. They continue this survival adaptation of being obedient to authority, of conforming, of fitting in. Survival depended on saying yes, not saying no. So billions said yes. No would have got us in trouble. We saw our parents as gods. We saw them as infallible. We were the ones at fault. From our parents to the parental body of government. Now they're infallible. They, after all, come across like they care about us. They care about the environment. They care about transgender kids, gender-affirming care. They care about our health. They care about the climate. They got these smiles on their faces. They talk about really helping people get jobs, boosting the economy, strengthening the dollar, securing the borders. They're dressed nicely. They seem sincere. They're in positions of authority, so they must know. They're backed by science. So let's continue that pattern of projecting infallibility onto authority, because that's what we did to survive. So they're infallible. They're godlike. I sacrifice authenticity for something beyond myself. Even though something doesn't feel quite right about what they're saying, something in me says, I don't know what it is. There's just something that doesn't feel quite right. But I step over that inner no, because my survival has depended on saying yes. It was a threat to my survival to say no. It was a threat to my survival to be disobedient. It was a threat to my survival to not fit in, to not conform. This is not just about childhood, everyone. This is about past lives, which are really parallel lives, and these memory imprints that are still within us, where our survival depended on bowing to corrupt, abusive authority. So I sacrifice truth for the lie within. As a child, 2020 comes, I sacrifice truth for a lie, a big, big lie, a devastating lie. I sacrifice my inner authority for outer authority. You seeing this now, everyone? This is deep. This is why. This is one reason why. Well, there's many reasons here, but this is a complex summary of why so many people continue to bow to corrupt authority, and why so many people can't even see the lies. They can't see the wolves in sheep's clothing. They see the sheep. They don't see the wolf. People want to believe that that person has my best interest at heart. But that's what we did as children. I need to believe mommy and daddy have my best interest at heart, even though they're abusing me and neglecting me. I need to believe that to survive. And now, as a 40-year-old, 50-year-old, I am doing the same thing with our so-called leaders. I'm going to believe them. This is also what drives the savior complex. I need a savior. I am so disconnected from my power and my truth that I want so badly to have a savior, whether it's Elon Musk or Donald Trump or Jesus. I talked about that a couple videos ago. Here's another way to say it, is that just like it was a threat to say no, and we were safe if we said yes, being the truth of who we are and speaking our truth was a threat. But we were safe if we were a lie, if we became a lie, if we became a pleaser, if we became the accommodator, if we became really responsible, if we became obedient. So, excuse me. So, what are the dark ones out there relying on? What are they leveraging? What are they using for their totalitarian control? They are leveraging these survival adaptations. They were relying on them, they're using them, and they know what they're doing because they're master psychologists. They are intentionally leveraging, using the survival adaptation of obedience, conformity, saying yes rather than no. They depend on that. They depend on a weakened, disempowered, fearful, shamed populace. They rely on a populace, on a population, on a people who derive self-worth, self-esteem by how well they fit into the flock. And they virtue signal. Look at me, I'm fitting in. I'm doing what's right, what's good. They're depending on that. They need that. Not only so that people bow to them, but so that the people who are virtue signaling around their obedience, so that those people attack others who are standing in their truth. And so the dark forces turn the obedient against the disobedient. And that's what's happening. That's how it works. I have a badge of honor because I fit in. I fit into a toxic, dysfunctional, abusive society culture. I fit in. Look at me. The government gives me an A on my report card. A+ for fitting in, for being good. Right? You look at the word like. I'm liked if I'm alike. Get it? See that wordplay? It's a fantastic one. That one came to me years ago. I am liked if I'm alike. So there's a survival impulse driving that need to be alike. That goes back to attachment, that goes back to sacrificing who we are for the relationship, for the we. And then as adults, we continue to do that. We want to be alike. We want to be liked by being alike. And the dark forces take advantage of that. Make sure you are alike. Fit in and do what you're told. And by the way, go attack those people over there who are not fitting in. Is this making sense? This is very important. It's very important to understand this. Now, here's what I want you to understand, is that your lie, your survival identity, whether it be pleaser or accommodator or controller or director or go-to person, that lie, that survival identity saved you. Mine saved me. I had to be strong. It saved you. It's very important you hold your survival identity, the lie that you took on, not from a perspective of judgment, not from a perspective of pathologizing or clinicalizing. That's what Big Pharma wants us to do. No, hold it from compassion, from your heart. Your lie saved you. Now, what is it like to hold it from that perspective? Your lie saved you because if you had not been a people pleaser at age 4, if you had not been an accommodator, if you had not become hyper-controlled controller, hyper-responsible, very on top of things at age 6, what would have happened? What would have happened? So what happens if what would it be like if you paid homage to this survival identity? So let's look at the one called pleaser. What would it be like to hold it and look at it and say, thank you for saving me? Hold it in front of you. And why do I say hold it in front of you? Because there's power in externalizing it. Put it in front of you. It is not who you are. Thank it. Look at all the ways it saved you. Look at all the ways it helped you cope. Look at all the ways it helped you get whatever semblance of love, nourishment, safety, approval you could get. And thank it. And I encourage you to journal on this. Do a ceremony. Have some sort of ceremony around this to really acknowledge and pay homage to this role. It is a role, it's an emotional function, but it is not who you are. What do I mean by that? That it's not who you are. If you look at the word pleaser, because what people say is they say, oh, I'm such a pleaser, or I'm such a caretaker. What if we said it this way? I am pleasing, and I'm good at taking care of others. In other words, what if we went from noun to to verb, from noun to verb. Pleaser to pleasing. Accommodator to accommodating. I have the capacity to be pleasing. I have the capacity to be accommodating. I have the capacity to be directing, but I am not a pleaser, accommodator, director. As soon as we call ourselves that, as soon as we say, I'm a pleaser, I'm an accommodator, I'm a director, we crystallize our identity and we create a box. And we get stuck in that box. We over-identify with it. What we want to be is like children, fluid. Children can go from happy, sad, angry, curious, peaceful within a minute, right? They can go from one emotion to another. They have that fluidity. They have that flexibility. They have that spontaneity. They have that wildness, unpredictability. Boom, ba-boom, 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 boom. But if we crystallize ourselves into a noun, we kind of get stuck in it, don't we? But all of us have the capacity to be pleasing, and all of us have the capacity to be accommodating and directing. Of course we do. What we want to do is we want to be able to go from one way of being to another, given the circumstances, given what's needed, given what feels right in our heart. So I'm going to be pleasing here, and then I'm going to move into being directing here, but not a director. And so now we're fluid. We're fluid. That's how we're meant to be. Fluidity is a state of health. Fluidity is a sign of health. When we're fluid, our muscles relax, our shoulders drop down, our diaphragm relaxes. We breathe more deeply. We're not stuck in a certain way of being. We're not stuck in have-tos, shoulds, shouldn't, rights, wrongs, good and bad. We're spontaneous. We're spontaneous. We're responding moment to moment, and this is what responsibility means. It is our ability to respond. It's in the word, responsibility, ability to respond. We go from reactive to creative. Look at the word reactive. Take the C in reactive, put it at the front, and you have creative. Reactive, creative. We want to go from reactive to creative. We want to go from defaulting to a particular role of I am going to just default to being a pleaser again, to responding given what feels right and given what's needed. And I'm going to be a pleaser. I'm going to be pleasing here, and I'm going to be something else here. So that's ability to respond. That's a different kind of responsibility versus that rigid, dogmatic responsibility of I need to be a certain way. That's the responsibility of children who become little adults at age 6. They become responsible. If we look actually at the words of pleaser and accommodator and caretaker and director, they have a theme of responsible. There's an overarching theme of being overly responsible. So we want to enhance our ability to respond, and we want to take on a different kind of responsibility, which is being verb-like, fluid, dynamic, spontaneous, free. This is our freedom, everyone. So the ceremonial release is you externalize, you take that role, pleaser, accommodator, director, whatever it might be, the responsible one. You take that noun and you put it in front of you and you pay homage to it. I invite you to pay close attention to how this role saved you, how it saved you. Look at how it helped you cope and survive very difficult experiences. Again, we are not here to pathologize this role. We are not here to clinicalize it. We are not here to judge it. We are not here to say, oh, I'm such a pleaser. Because what that does, it just cements it, right? We want to honor it, is another word. Honor it, thank it, and set it free. And come home to our heart, come home to our fluid spirit, come home to our free I am that is not bound by any particular idea of self. What we do is we leave the story, the rigid story of I am. We leave the rigid story of my life. And we return to life. A life that cannot be captured. A life that cannot be defined in any particular ways. It's like water, you can't grasp it. A life that is beyond any particular noun. A life that is mystery. So we surrender my story of a particular role, my story, and in surrendering that my story, so through our ceremonial release, we create room for mystery. My story, mystery. Look how closely those words are. And in that we make room for mastery. Look how close those three little word nuggets are. My story, mystery, mastery. Making room for mystery in our hearts by disidentifying with the story, the survival story that you took on. But we do this through honoring, loving, paying homage to that survival story. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for getting me through those tough times. It's a very beautiful thing to do. It's a beautiful gift to give to ourselves. And you set yourself free in the realm of verbs. You become childlike again. You return to your innocence, which means in essence. Innocence in essence. An essence that can't be captured, cannot be defined. But is fluid, like beautiful little ones, like children. So this is my invitation for all of you, is to explore this, to play with it. And I hope this video helps you. Doing our healing work helps. Deeper healing work, it helps with this. And I lead online healing and activation ceremonies pretty much every weekend, 2 a weekend. They're online. So wherever you are in the world, you can join. I'll put a link in the description. Otherwise, please like, share, comment, subscribe, click notifications, all that jazz. And thank you for joining me. Take care.